Alien vs. Predator, the film that promised to answer the question every sci-fi fan had been pondering for years. What happens when you pit two of cinema's most legendary creatures against each other? The result is a film that's more about missed opportunities than thrilling confrontations. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Settle in, grab your popcorn, and let's dissect this glorious mashup that tries so hard to live up to the legends that spawned it. Spoiler alert, it doesn't quite hit the mark. Now, for those of you keeping track of the timeline, because what's a sci-fi franchise without a convoluted timeline, AVP is set in the year 2004. Yes, that's right, before Ripley's ill-fated encounter with the Xenomorphs in 2122's Alien, and after the Predator's initial hunting escapades in the late 20th century. So this little gem of a film technically serves as a prequel to the Alien series, offering a glimpse into humanity's first brush with these terrifying extraterrestrials. Long before, Weyland-Yutani had the bright idea to send a mining crew into deep space to investigate a signal of unknown origin. A curious spot in the timeline, like finding the missing piece to a puzzle you didn't quite know you were putting together. Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who seems to have made a career out of squeezing franchises until they squeak, AVP brings together the terrifying Xenomorphs and the relentless Yautja, better known to you and me as Predators, in an ancient pyramid beneath the Antarctic ice. Because, of course, where else would you expect to find a deathmatch arena for intergalactic beings? Interestingly, the concept of Xenomorphs and Predators sharing the same universe didn't originate with this film, but rather in the pages of comic books published by Dark Horse Comics back in 1989. These comics laid the groundwork for the crossover, sparking fan interest and debates long before the film hit the big screen. And there's also the Easter egg in Predator 2, where a Xenomorph skull can be seen among the Predator's trophies, a subtle nod that fueled years of speculation and anticipation. The production had all the ingredients for a blockbuster, a rich lore from two beloved franchises, a director who'd proven his chops with the Resident Evil series, and a budget that, while not astronomical, was respectable enough to pull off some decent effects. But here's the rub. Despite all that potential, the film often feels like it's doing battle with its own constraints, whether it's the limited sets and sometimes questionable CGI, or the fact that the actors seem more concerned with dodging their own cheesy dialogue than dodging acid blood. There's a sense that it never quite rises to the occasion. But let's be fair to Mr. Anderson. There are moments where the production shines. The creature effects, for instance, do their best to capture the nightmarish presence of the Xenomorphs and the imposing dreadlocked menace of the Predators. Yet for every step forward, there's a stumble. The Yautja in particular have been bulked up to the point where they look less like nimble hunters and more like they've spent the last century at the interstellar gym. One wonders if they're more at risk of tripping over their own muscles than being outwitted by their xenomorphic foes. There's one area where AVP deserves a nod of approval. It's in the score. Harold Closer's composition manages to evoke a sense of dread and urgency that the script often fails to deliver. The music swells in all the right places. The score tries its best to make us believe that what we're witnessing is epic, a battle for survival, but there's only so much that a well-timed string section can do. The sound design, similarly, is one of the film's more redeeming features. The clicks and growls of the Predators are as unnerving as ever, and the hiss of the Xenomorphs never fails to send a shiver.
Ugly son of a bitch!
It's in these moments of auditory excellence that AVP almost convinces us that we're watching something truly menacing. Almost. The plot of AVP is as straightforward as it is preposterous. A team of scientists led by the ever-competent Charles Bishop Weyland, played by Lance Henriksen in a clear nod to his role in Aliens, stumbles upon a buried pyramid in Antarctica. The setup feels like the beginning of a twisted episode of Time Team, if Time Team involved alien death matches and ancient doomsday devices. The pyramid, of course, isn't just any old archaeological find. It's an ancient arena where predators have been coming for centuries to hunt xenomorphs as part of a rite of passage. And because horror movie logic dictates that human curiosity will always get the better of us, the team decides to explore it. Cue the familiar trope of scientists and mercenaries poking around in places where they clearly don't belong. And before you can say bad idea, the xenomorphs are loose, and the predators are on the hunt. What follows is a survival story, though survival might be giving it too much credit. The team quickly finds themselves caught between the two warring species, becoming little more than collateral damage in the battle. Something almost darkly humorous about the predictability of it all. Every turn of the pyramid's labyrinthine corridors brings a new, usually fatal, encounter with our titular monsters. The film does try to build some tension with its setting, a claustrophobic, shape-shifting pyramid that changes every 10 minutes like a malevolent Rubik's Cube. The pyramid's shifting architecture is meant to disorientate and trap the characters.
okay?
Yeah.
But it also ends up trapping the narrative in repetitive loops of running, hiding and dying. There's only so many times you can watch a character get lost, only to be ambushed by a xenomorph or predator before it starts to feel like you're the one stuck in the maze. One of the more memorable scenes, though not necessarily for the right reasons, is the sequence where the humans, realising they've been marked as prey, must choose between aligning themselves with the predators or taking their chances with the xenomorphs. It's a classic lesser of two evils scenario, but the film doesn't delve deeply into the ethical quandary this presents. Instead, it rushes to the next action set piece, missing an opportunity to add some real depth. The climax of the film is, predictably, a showdown between our protagonist, Alexa Woods, and the remaining predator, who've decided that teaming up against the bigger threat, the Xenomorph Queen, naturally, is the best course of action. The partnership, though potentially fascinating, is underdeveloped and feels more like a plot convenience than a genuine narrative evolution. And let's not forget the final twist, a Predator chestburster setting the stage for the inevitable sequel, because what's a franchise mashup without a bit of sequel baiting? Speaking of the humans, let's talk about the cast. Sanaa Lathan leads the ensemble as Alexa Woods, the requisite strong female lead, who channels her inner Ripley but never quite reaches those iconic heights. Lathan does what she can with the material she's given, but it's hard to shine when you're sharing the screen with two of cinema's most legendary monsters, and a script that's doing you no favours whatsoever.
You are one ugly mother.
Lathan's character, Alexa, is portrayed as the survivalist and moral compass of the group, a role that would have benefited from a bit more complexity, while she's clearly meant to be the audience's entry point into this chaotic world.
Alexa Woods, environmental technician and guide.
Film doesn't give her much to work with beyond the standard action hero beats. Her relationship with the surviving predator, which could have been an interesting exploration of mutual respect between hunter and prey, instead feels rushed and forced, as if the filmmakers were ticking off a box on their cool things to include list. Lance Henriksen brings a touch of class and continuity to the proceedings, reprising his association with the franchise in a new role as Charles Bishop Weyland. His presence is a clear nod to his portrayal of the android bishop in Aliens, which should have added a layer of intrigue for fans. Unfortunately, the script sidelines him into the all-too-familiar role of the wealthy industrialist, whose curiosity and ambition lead to disaster. God, it's like Jurassic Park all over again.
But the train has left the station, and I think I speak for everyone aboard this ship. This is worth the risk.
Henriksen, ever the professional, does his best to elevate the material, but there's only so much gravitas one can bring to lines like,
Don't turn your back on me.
The rest of the cast are more or less cannon fodder, each one ticking off the standard horror tropes. The eager scientist, check. The gruff mercenary, check. The wide-eyed newbie, check. Raoul Bova plays Sebastian, the archaeologist who, predictably, spends more time translating hieroglyphs and spouting exposition than actually contributing to the action. His budding romance with Alexa is so undercooked it could give you salmonella, and it's easy to forget it exists, until the film decides to remind us. Then there's Ewan Bremner as Graham, the quirky comic relief character, who I can't help but still always imagine as being in Trainspotting. He exists to provide a few laughs before meeting his inevitable doom.
A soldier, but I think you should calm it down now. Really, we're not dead yet, okay?
Bremner's performance is as endearing as it is unnecessary, and one can't help but wonder if his character was included purely to inject some levity into an otherwise grim story.
Oh, shit.
By the time the Predators and the Xenomorphs start tearing through the team, you're less concerned with their fates and more focused on who's next in line for the slaughter. The film doesn't spend enough time developing these characters for the audience to feel any real sense of loss when they meet their gruesome ends. Instead, they're more like check marks on a list of action movie cliches, there to be dispatched in increasingly predictable ways. One of the film's biggest missed opportunities is in its handling of the predators themselves. These creatures, who've been built up over decades as the ultimate hunters, are reduced to lumbering brutes who seem to lack the cunning and strategy that made them so iconic in the first place. The decision to bulk them up, turning them into near-invincible tanks, strips away much of the tension that should come from watching them hunt. It's hard to feel any real threat when the predators are clearly overpowered compared to the humans they're stalking. At its core, AVP attempts to explore themes of ritualistic combat and survival of the fittest, but the execution is as muddled as a xenomorph's drool puddle. The film tries to present the predators as noble warriors, engaging in a rite of passage by hunting xenomorphs, a concept that could have added depth to their characterisation. However, this intriguing idea is barely explored beyond a few cryptic carvings and some hurried exposition. The result is a half-baked mythology that never quite satisfies, leaving viewers to piece together the lore from snippets, rather than offering any kind of coherent narrative. Interestingly, the idea of the Predators using Earth as a hunting ground isn't new. It's been a recurring theme in the franchise's expanded universe. In fact, the original Predator script had a completely different ending, where the alien ship lands and we see the Predators preparing for a big hunt. The theme of survival is present, but it's undercut by the characters' often absurd decisions. The humans are supposed to be navigating a deadly game between two alien species. They seem more interested in running headfirst into danger than in using their brains. There's a frustrating disconnect between the film's theme of survival of the fittest and the sheer idiocy of some of the characters' choices. It's a nod to themes explored in the Alien franchise, but like many of the film's ideas, this too is underdeveloped. When AVP hit theatres, it was met with a collective shrug from critics and audiences alike. The film did well enough at the box office, helped in no small part by the combined franchises of Alien and Predator. Critics were quick to point out the film's flaws, from its muddled plot to its underwhelming character development. Fans, meanwhile, were divided. Some appreciated the spectacle of seeing these two iconic creatures face off, while others lamented the missed opportunity for a more substantive narrative. One of the film's most divisive aspects was its PG-13 rating. Fans of both franchises, which were known for their R-rated, blood-soaked carnage, were understandably miffed at the toned-down violence and gore. It's hard to get truly invested in a battle between two of cinema's most brutal creatures when the bloodshed feels sanitised for a younger audience. It's like ordering a spicy curry and getting served a bowl of mild korma. Serviceable, but lacking the kick you were hoping for. The film's commercial success, however, was enough to spawn a sequel, Requiem, which, if you can believe it, managed to lower the bar even further. But that's a story, or a video, should I say, for another day. And yes, that's next. It's a film that exists more as a curiosity than as a cornerstone of either franchise. It's the cinematic equivalent of a crossover episode. Interesting in theory, underwhelming in execution. Alien vs Predator promised a showdown for the ages, but what we got was more of a slap fight. The film is entertaining enough if you check your brain at the door and enjoy the spectacle for what it is, but it's hard not to feel a pang of disappointment. With a richer script, more developed characters, and a willingness to delve deeper into the lore of these two franchises, AVP could have been a classic. Instead, it's a middling entry in both series, neither a disaster nor a triumph, but a film that sits comfortably in the realm of could have been better. That said, it's important to acknowledge what AVP does well. The film delivers on the promise of bringing two of sci-fi's most iconic monsters together, in a single, action-packed narrative. For fans who've long debated who would win in a fight, it offers a thrilling, if not entirely polished, realisation of that fantasy. The creature design remains top-notch when the CGI is not getting in the way, and there are moments of genuine tension and excitement that remind us why these franchises have endured for so long. The sheer spectacle of seeing them clash, combined with some well-crafted set pieces, ensures that it still has a place in the hearts of many genre enthusiasts. The film gives us the spectacle of xenomorphs and predators clashing in an underground arena, but it does so with a script that's more concerned with setting up the next sequence rather than exploring the deeper mythos. In the end, neither side emerges as a clear victor. Instead, it's the audience left to decide which creature was more underwhelming in this cinematic showdown. It's a film that, despite its flaws, understands the allure of its premise. Two of the most feared creatures in cinematic history duking it out in a battle for survival. While it might not settle the debate of who's truly the deadliest, it does remind us of why these monsters have captivated audiences for decades. Perhaps the real winner here is the fan base, still left with just enough tantalising conflict to keep the conversation going. So while AVP may stumble in its execution, it undeniably leaves its mark as a memorable, if imperfect, entry in the annals of sci-fi lore. I've been Eclectica, and if you enjoyed this nostalgic trip down the icy corridors of AVP, why not stick around for the next chapter? I'll be diving into the murky depths of Alien vs Predator Requiem, a sequel that promises more of the same, but with even darker twists, and having seen it quite literally. In the meantime, let me know your thoughts on AVP. Did it satisfy your inner sci-fi fan, or did it leave you cold? Drop a comment below, and if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe for more reviews, deep dives, and a bit of cheeky banter. After all, the only thing better than watching a good movie is dissecting a not-so-good one together.